Hi, my name is Anand Akela, and I'm a longtime Thai volunteer currently serving as one of the directors of Thai Silicon Valley Board. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the My Story series of events hosted by Silicon Valley chapter of Thai. For some of you who's joining new for the first time, one of the Thai events, Thai is a global nonprofit dedicated to fostering entrepreneurship. It was founded in Silicon Valley almost 30 years ago, and now we have established it as a global network of successful entrepreneurs, corporate execs, professionals, and that are spread across 61 chapters in 15 countries. Thai's mission of fostering entrepreneurship is based on 5 pillars of funding, networking, mentoring, educating, and incubating. Thai Silicon Valley brings 60 plus events and programs every year focused on these key 5 pillars. My Story series is one of the key Thai Silicon Valley programs that highlights the success story of entrepreneurs with successful exit in recent past. We have an amazing story lined up for you by an incredible entrepreneur. To get started with today's program, now let me invite Naveen Best, the host of My Story series. Naveen is the founder and CEO of Akrita Incorporated, an AI-powered cloud-based compliance automation and cybersecurity solutions company. He's a serial entrepreneur. He was the founder or co-founder and CEO of Starks, Secure Act, Nayana Networks, Ukaya Software that was acquired by Novell. He holds multiple patents and have presented and published multiple papers. He has been a long-time Thai volunteer like me and has served on Thai's Silicon Valley board. With that, let me hand it over to Naveen to introduce today's guest speaker. Over to you, Naveen.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you so much for kind words. But I have to obviously thank you for being a long-time volunteer. And since I've worked with you over more than, I think, 10, 12 years now in various programs and working together. So thank you again. Good evening, everybody over here in the West Coast and other parts of the Western world. And also good morning to folks, some of you who might be joining from the other parts of the world where it's morning, like in India or Asia. So I appreciate your coming over here today. And we're really excited to have you. We have an amazing entrepreneur today here, and he's been very kind enough from another part of United States to join us. And thanks to these virtual conferences, we are able to actually bring so many successful entrepreneurs from other parts too. So we're really excited about it. So few housekeeping items. So please make sure that you can start writing up your questions in the Q&A section of the screen you see. And so we can try to cover it after Upen goes through his journey in his own words, and then we'll try to cover that. So one of the things, most of the entrepreneurs, when you start your startups, either first time, second time, or whatever, as many times. So I think we always want to make sure that, I guess we want to create a leading vendor of whatever the category we are focusing on. So the question is, how do you create those leaders? So similarly, Upen created a leading cloud native player in the master data management space, and his company was acquired by Syndigo, which is a Chicago-based leading SaaS product information and syndication company. And he co-founded Riversand Technologies back in 2001. And he bootstrapped it all the way until it was acquired in 2021 by Syndigo. So amazing, and I'm sure you'll hear it more from him. So I will not go into the thrill of his journey. And Riversand, obviously, over the years, garnered a number of industry awards from Gartner as well as Forrester and all the leading, the industry analysis firms. So as co-founder and CEO of Riversand, Upen was responsible for the strategic vision, overall strategy, and running the whole company until its acquisition. And before that, he worked with other enterprise software companies such as Trilogy, as well as with EDS in their number of product line management. He was managing in automotive, industrial manufacturing. He holds a bachelor's degree from Indian Institute of Technology at Chennai and master's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Missouri. So without taking too much of thrill from Upen, I would like to hand it over to him to share his exciting, colorful, and amazing entrepreneurial journey with us this evening. So let's give him a big round of virtual applause. With that, Upen, to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Naveen. Really appreciate you guys inviting me over to this platform. Folks, I hope all of you can hear me clearly. Good evening to all the folks in the US. Good morning to folks who are joining from the other side of the globe. My name is Upen Varanasi, as Naveen mentioned, and you'll see a little bit of my story. I'm not going to go into the story part of it right away. It's been an exciting journey of entrepreneurship. I never believed growing up that one day I will be an entrepreneur. I didn't foresee this kind of a future, but here I am. It's been an exciting journey, fun journey. We live in a small suburb called Sugarland. It's a suburb of Houston. And I would like to call it the forgotten coast, right? When you hear entrepreneurship stories, at least in the US, you hear a lot of stories coming from the Bay Area, from the West Coast. You hear stories coming from the East Coast. We are the Gulf Coast. We are actually the third coast. And when I started my journey, there were not too many tech entrepreneurs. Of course, Houston is very well known in certain industries. Of course, NASA. It's also very well known in the energy industry. And for some of you guys who don't know, we also have a very thriving medical services industry. But when you talk about enterprise tech, this really is not the place to be. The closest where some action goes on is Austin. But a lot has changed. Texas is a different place today. And I'm really excited, living in Texas today, you feel you're in the heart of it all now. So it used to be a forgotten coast. This used to be a forgotten state in that sense, but we are absolutely there in the scene. And I would wish to believe that in a small way, we also added to the burgeoning scene, the enterprise tech scene here in Texas. So with that, guys, I would really like to jump into my presentation. I have a brief presentation, and I would really love to keep it interactive after my presentation is over and take your questions. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Just a second. Okay. I hope you guys can all see the screen. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
Upen.
Okay. So as I said, I live in Houston, Texas. That's my family. We like saying Houston, Texas, technically Sugarland, Texas. My wife, Maitli, is a medical doctor by background. I have two kids, my son, Vikram, he's 12 years old, and daughter, Divya, she's 8-year-old. So I have a beautiful family. And my family has been an incredible support for me in these past 20 years. 20 years of this entrepreneurial journey, at least my wife has been there since 18 years. We got married in 2003. And my kids, of course, have in their own way. My wife has contributed big time. You want to see that part of her story. And my kids also have played a very crucial role in their own ways. So that's my family. Why am I invited here? Because of Riversand and what we as a team, what we as a company achieved. I would say that we broke all rules. So for those of you who are listening in today, I'm assuming many of the folks who couldn't make it today will be seeing the video or the recording. I want to give you hope, right? We broke all the rules, or we didn't follow any of the established rules of building a company. And we were still able to build a substantial company, and that's because of the incredible people. We were founded in 2001. We got acquired in 2021, basically just about a year back, May 27th of last year. And we became, through that journey, we became leaders in an area of data management called product information management and master data management. I'm not going to go into depth of what those areas are. I'm pretty sure the purpose of this talk is not to go into the details of what my company was doing, but to give you some lessons learned along the way, my perspective of entrepreneurship, and hopefully encourage many of you guys who are listening in onto this call to take your own entrepreneurial journey. We became Gartner leaders. We became one of the fastest growing companies in our space. One of the awards I'm very, proud of is winning this Great Places to Work award with one of the highest scores, because it's a testament to the kind of culture, the kind of company that we build, the kind of people at Riversand. It's really a testament to the team, global team here in the US, in Europe, in India, and multiple locations in each of these areas. It's a testament to the team, testament to the leaders. We were about 400, close to 400 people at the time we got acquired. The company has continued to grow in the last year with Syndigo acquiring us. We absolutely have become the biggest company in this space, poised to even take greater heights, poised to scale greater heights. The team itself has grown quite a bit, but at that point it was about 400 people, and I'm very, very proud of each and every one of that team. The team that was there at the point of acquisition, and some of the people who are there through some parts of the journey. Very appreciative and thankful to each and everyone who played a key role in that journey, right? And that journey has been a very unique journey, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. So let me start a little bit about my background, right? Because when I see myself now, I can see various things shaped me. And of course, these are different phases of your life. In the early part of my life, I would say, there are a few things. My dad used to work for the Indian Defense, so we used to go place to place. We never stayed in one place. So growing up, high school in Calcutta, started my schooling in Shillong, a lot of time in Maharashtra, Pune, Nagar, sometimes my dad was posted in Bangalore, then Assam, and so on. So we were roaming around. We kind of led a nomadic life. And what that actually did was very early on in life. Now, at that time, when you're going through it, you say, wow, I can't keep my friends, because that was definitely not the WhatsApp era. So many of my friends, I have no way to get back in touch with them. It's in spite of all the social media networks out there, because we just lost track of each other so many years back. But what it did is it gave a perspective on how to handle change. Today, looking back, I realized that every single time going to a new school, establishing a new set of friends, moving to a new home, sometimes in the same city, changing homes, I didn't realize that then. But today I see how big a role that played. In the picture, you have my mom and my sister. My sister is a couple of years older to me, little less than 2 years older than me. One of the things my mom instilled in me is this whole concept of dream big. Her younger brother was a topper in school in India. He went to IIT Madras, IIT Chennai now, and he came to the US. And my mom always used to say, hey, I wanted to be like my brother. I wanted to go to IIT or go into civils or IAS or do something significant. And that was definitely, my uncle was definitely a big role model for me. So my mom was always trying to instill a big dream. One funny anecdote is, very early on in life, when I was like 5 or 6, what I wanted to be actually was a train ticket collector, TTE. Every time we used to travel, and one of the most powerful guy was that guy, because if you didn't have a ticket, you couldn't make that journey, right? So I saw this guy come in to the coach, and everybody would shape up and be a bit nervous, making sure that their seats are actually theirs. So I used to tell my parents, I really want to be a TTE. This seems to be a very powerful job. My mom was talking about getting into IIT and so on. But definitely, she instilled a pretty big dream right since I was a kid. My dad was exceedingly hardworking person. I saw him, really have a very high degree of ethics. in some of the areas where he was in construction industry, within the defense, things would happen. But my dad had this really high bar in terms of ethics and hard work. And so that definitely was something that shaped me. The last thing I would say is all my career role models were people who had careers. So there was a big dream. I could see the hard work, and I was inspired by that. I understood change, even though I didn't acknowledge it then. But the other thing that happened growing up was business was as far away from me as possible. Nobody in our family owned a business. There was one uncle who owned a business, but everybody, his path was so unique that nobody thought that I could duplicate that. It's a conventional business, owning a hotel and other businesses. So really all the role models were, either a scientist or somebody, in a great career, or somebody who was, gone into civil services, people who are not, generally speaking, we wouldn't call them entrepreneurs, right? So I really didn't ever think that I would be in business. In fact, maybe I was, in a sense, trained not to be in business. From there, of course, I followed in my own zigzag way. I was never one of these guys who topped every class. I was some things I used to do well, some things not so well. Today looking back, I realized that, things that inspired me, I would really focus. Things that didn't, I would kind of lose interest. This happened to me at IIT too, because throughout my IIT journey, some things I realized was I was not meant to be an engineer. Today, looking back, it's so clear. But while I was there, wow, I cleared IIT. I was doing mechanical engineering at IIT Chennai. And I thought I should be doing well, but there was really no inspiration for me from inside. I didn't really do well academically because that was nothing really inspired me. In fact, the only thing that I got inspired by was with everything but studies, right? So, because I very quickly realized engineering was not for me. Maybe I should have gone into math or physics or something else, or a totally different field. But, if you do well in your school, and your parents and the societal pressure of, hey, IIT is one of the best places to be. That's how I ended up there. So mine is not one of those stories where I went to IIT, I topped IIT, I was like topper. No, I had no clue what I was doing there. Sincerely, I had no clue. But I played along. And graduated in 4 years, which itself was a big achievement. I did well in a couple of courses, a course in math here, a course in economics, but by and large, this is not for me. But I guess I was in the right department that believed in, passing you, and somehow I figured out I was a lot into sports. The other thing, so there was a search for meaning, and I was trying to see what I really am going to do in life. I was interested in a whole bunch of things. All of these things played a key role in my entrepreneurship journey. Beginning to pick up multiple disciplines in Riversand. All those things are very key. And I also, one thing I understood at IIT was, wow, surrounded by some really bright people. And that is something I always wanted. I wanted to always be surrounded by bright people. And that is one lasting effect out of the IIT days. Coming to US, I came to Missouri. I didn't come to one of those heartland places. We used to say middle of everywhere, but it was middle of nowhere actually. And the funny thing was, but this is awesome. Got introduced to Heartland America, I would say. I'm actually thankful looking back. The couple of Indians you see here in the picture along with me, good friends of mine, we are a very small group. But it forced me to learn about the culture here, to really understand, rather than come into a city where you're just surrounded by the same sort of Indian friends who came from there to here. This is, I think, very key for me. Also made it very interesting for me later on when I was also involved in sales at Riversand, understanding the customer psyche and so on. This was very, very instrumental. I knew I want to excel in something. I was still searching for meaning. I discovered my love for software. After graduating, I had a short stint, talking actually my background is Riversand, because I had 2.5 years of work experience, out of which a couple of years was in SDRC, little less than 2 years in SDRC. And then 6 months in this really amazing company in Austin called Trilogy, where everybody was, in creating startup here, startup there. 2001, the crash had just happened. In fact, Trilogy one day went from 1,600 people to 300 people. I was one of those 300 people who stayed, but I just felt my heart was not in it, and made me come to Houston, where one of my friends was. He was a founder in a business, and I got started with him. Very soon, we both quit along with a third person, and we founded Riversand. So my job experience was very short, but I think that's a little bit of time in the US before Riversand was pretty key, because I think I finally found what I was looking for. I loved software, and I think I really felt at that time, if I'm working so hard, why work hard for somebody else? Why not work hard for myself? And I think that is one thing that one key thing that hit me at that time. And maybe I was unhireable. I don't know what to call it, but once jumped into the entrepreneurship side, it really, over time, I realized this is what I guess I was meant to do. Got married in 2003. That's my wife in the middle, Maithili. My parents on the left side, Maithili's parents on the right side. My brother-in-law Chuck, who's also an entrepreneur, and his wife Uma, they're when they came to see me, before getting married to Maithili, they wanted to come and check on me in Houston. I just started a business. That was me, many pounds lighter. But this has been, I would say that my 20 years of entrepreneurship journey, Maithili has played an incredible role. She's a big dreamer just like me. But more important than that, right? I mean, she had this insane belief in me, which I myself didn't have. I was like questioning, can I actually do it? I have never done business. My background is not for business. Yeah, I've jumped into entrepreneurship, but is this something I'll succeed at? But she had this incredible belief in me. She had an incredible belief in the venture itself, and I was like, really? I mean, I can't see it, but she had this incredible faith, and that carried me a long way. She also provided incredible support, right? Freeing me up, complimenting me, completing whatever needed completion. And what I love is she was always proactively adding value. There was a time, various times in my business journey, where some of the spouses needed a little bit of encouragement because they were all questioning where Riversand is going, and she would jump in, and her belief would be even stronger than my belief, and that was so valuable to me, right? But the most important thing also amongst all of this is delayed gratification. We went through some real near-death experiences building a business, and she never ever put pressure. I remember when we both got married, our bank account was close to zero, and we were not getting paid a lot. The business was in trouble. We had created a software out of Compaq pre-merger with HP. But even though the software was kind of there, it kept IP rights, there's no market for it. PIM and MDMS terms didn't exist, and there's not really a market for it. We're not doing very well. We're hardly making any money. But the thing about Maithili is she comes from a business background, and it was never about, hey, we can delay our gratification. We don't need to take all the vacations. We don't need to live drive the great cars. We don't need to live in the beautiful homes. All that will come later. Take care of your business. That was the mindset she had, and that really freed me up. And I would absolutely attribute a large part of the success of Riversand to my incredible partner, Maithili. So now let's talk about the Riversand journey, right? Founded in 2001, 3 founders. One of the founders actually moved on in 2005. He's moved on to his own very successful venture. Anil, Kinney, and me, both of us continued. We continued right from day one. I would say the first 10 years, some people ask me, 20 years, man, that was a long time. I actually think of having 3 startups in those 20 years. The first startup was, we had a product, but we didn't know what to do. We were not good entrepreneurs. I was not good entrepreneur. I don't want to speak about Anil. I definitely was learning the chops. We had a consulting business. We got excited about the product, stopped focusing on consulting. Product revenue didn't pick up. Consulting revenue dropped, near-death experience. The market was not yet ready. There was a good product market fit, but we felt the market was not yet ready. And that was the first 10 years. We were really, you could call us a pseudo consulting product business. But we had built something of value. By the end of the decade, we were beginning to add something of value. And then we had Informatica coming in saying, hey, we want to acquire you. We thought, okay, great. 2 founders, a small cap table, few employees, we can just sell and be done. And that fell through. At the last stage, that acquisition fell through. I'm pretty sure they regretted not acquiring us, given what we ended up doing after that. But that made me think, saying, you know what, I want to build something of tremendous value. What we have done so far is not cutting it. We got to really create a big impact. At that time, the choice to me was pack it in, sell to somebody else, or figure out whether our own industry had the next wave, the next big thing. Go where the puck is going. That's what I did. We built a new platform, completely ground up. But this time around, I said, let's about 2015, 16, we started doing that. Raised Series A of about 45 million, started creating tremendous momentum. Really, the Riversand story of tremendous growth happened in the last 5 years, where we were well on the way to give us like a year and a half, we would have become probably a unicorn. We were well underway of that. And finally, at a point when I was ready to raise Series B, we got an offer we couldn't refuse. Frankly, if the business was 5 years old or 3 years old, I wouldn't have probably sold it. But we had made a lot of promises to employees. There was a lot of cap table that was given to the key employees, and we wanted everybody to make that wealth. We can do this journey once more. I do think long term, but I felt this is the right time, and the offer was something we wouldn't refuse. So we had a pretty big exit, and we sold to Syndigo, and combined, I still have some shares there, but combined, this is a company which is absolutely the best in our industry, in a very key industry. And that's how we exited. It's been a year. 6 to 8 months I worked there, and then last few months I've been ideating what to do next, and that's where I am. So the Riversand journey was very interesting. The key question is, what were some key takeaways? I'm talking all of this from my perspective. You got to jump in. I told you about my background, no business background. But one thing I guess I was ready always was to get out of the comfort zone. You got to start. You cannot do paralysis by analysis and keep thinking, is this the right time? Is that the right time? There never will be a right time. If you think, is this the right time? There'll be 100 reasons why it's not the right time. There'll be 100 reasons why it's the right time. At some point, you got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. So jump in. My advice to those budding entrepreneurs out there, jump in. You've got to figure out how you're going to survive, right? Our way of surviving was consulting. I told you all the rookie mistakes we made. Though we had a good consulting business, we got too super excited on the product before product revenue picked up. And that's what caused us a couple of near-death experiences. But consulting is a great way. If you don't have the right seed capital and you already have some career capital built in some area, do consulting in that area. Maybe that's one way you can make some money. And you can do consulting in the area where you're building the product. That's the approach we took. I was never willing to follow this typical Bay Area formula. You start a company, you raise the seed capital, 1 year, 2 year, you raise capital. If you don't hit Series A, then pack it in, next company. I was always looking at my company saying, this is the company I want to build it big. So I was not really looking to exit in 1 year, 2 year, right? Because I saw the value of what we were doing, and I understood it will take us 3, 4 years, 5 years to build value. So there's no shortcuts. So we were willing to do consulting. Of course, if you get seed capital today, crowdsourcing is a great way to raise capital before you go to institutional rounds. Partnerships, you can do some key partnerships to try raise capital. Basically, scrounge, do whatever it requires you to do. There's no beautiful way of doing it. Do whatever it takes to keep your business afloat, and delay the institutional round till you're ready to cross the chasm, which is my next point. So shouldn't you take the institutional round? Of course, you should take the institutional round. Where if your product market fit is clear and now you need growth capital, of course, that's the right time. But if you were like me, trying to figure out things not yet perfect, you're not yet 100% established product market fit, maybe the market is not totally ready, then you need to survive for some more time. But if you are in a space where product market fit is perfect and you really need money to just have explosive growth, then yeah, then take the institutional capital. So either way is fine, guys. I was in the first category where I was not, the product market fit was not perfect for me, and I had to survive, and there was no beauty. But that first few years really built the deep entrepreneurial chops. Today, to believe that, hey, we can pretty much do anything, but that chops were built at that time. Play the infinite game. Now, I've always believed that when you're building a business, I've never been attracted to the mercenary style of building a business. It's like infinite game. How can I, now, of course, I understand businesses by definition don't have to be, at some point you might sell, but your thought process is, I'm there to capture the market. Even if I get acquired, the combined company, whoever acquires us, this is an infinite game. We're adding value to that space. We're not there to just quickly do something, call yourself a unicorn, next day sell yourself and go off. that is not me. Okay, now you might have other speakers who might come and talk to you about that, but that is not me. I was always about long-term thinking, and that actually helped attract the right people, right? The people who really get attracted to making a lasting impact, those kind of people, the right people, because alignment of values is very key. So if your value is very short term, you'll attract people like that, and then you deal with that. And maybe that is your build to flip. You want to build it to flip. I always like to think of build to last. Of course, if an offer comes that you can't refuse, you'll take it. You have to be smart, but you don't build with an idea to flip. You build to last, and you want to have people who align with you in that sense. You have to adapt to change. Change is a given, right? So fail forward fast. Don't. I think all these points are things you might have read in enough business books. Passion versus craftsman mindset. I really felt that more than passion was always there. Over time, we became really good at our space. And that is what our competition didn't. There were companies that were better funded than us. We basically beat every one of them, because we were willing to become craftsmen, meaning work hard, really understand, and become really good at what we do. And after some point, it's like they say, right? If you're a basketball player, after some time, the game slows down for you. That's how we felt. We started dictating what was happening in our industry. While before that, we were being pushed. Now we started pushing because we had become experts. We had developed that expertise, that career capital, right? And also we were part of the right associations. We brought the right people on board. Through it all, I think one of the things you hear in the Riversand journey is our customers would say, wow, these guys really care about us. I know that's a very common thing, cliched thing, but we really, really believed in that, right? Creating value for your customer. That's the heart of it. If that is in place and you make all your decisions around that, the growth will happen. The growth will absolutely bound to happen. People understand your earnestness of purpose and what you're there in business for. And they understand your long-term thinking, and people rally behind you. And that's what happened. A lot of people rallied behind us, our partners, and many of our key co-workers. Everybody rallied around us. And last but not the least, if you have that long-term kind of thinking, you care for people. You're not in it for yourself. Yes, we want to make an impact. Yes, we want to solve a problem. Yes, we want to do a great job for our customers. But it is also very key for me that the team that had been there with me through thick and thin, that we could create wealth for them. And we did create wealth for a lot of people. And at the point of exit, when people came to me and said, Upen, you know what, I was looking at my bank account, and my elder daughter, I could set aside money for her, and my younger daughter, I could set aside money. And I'm actually now totally peaceful because my financial needs are taken care. That has been one of the most great thing to hear, and multiple people telling that, right? So you really need to care for your people. And it has been a joint journey. It's been a combined journey. We all were in it together. And so people made wealth, not just me, but a whole bunch of people. And that is kind of the key takeaway for me. Some of the key takeaways, I mean, I know in 20 years, tough to summarize everything in a few minutes. But these are the key takeaways. And, I could have put 50 slides just on pictures. But, some picture from our India team, some from the US team, just the team. For me, Riversand journey is people, and still very close touch with all of my colleagues who are still in there along with Syndigo. And I absolutely believe that we did something really, really special. I'm very, very proud of it, and the team was a big part of it. The journey continues for me. I'm making investments. Very soon, we'll be launching some new ventures. I'm focused on the Web3 area. So for me, the serial entrepreneurship continues, and hopefully this time I'll build something which truly is long lasting. I don't know how to sell, and it goes on for quite some time. But yeah, that's my journey, and I would like to give it back to Naveen.
Yeah, thank you, Upen, for an amazing story, and I'm sure audience will also have a lot of questions. So let me. I just usually like to break the ice. Start with my first question. Is I know you kind of mentioned that entrepreneurship wasn't something you thought about it, but if you I would say, if you think back and reflect, was there anything in your childhood you think that might have inspired you to become an entrepreneur and go into this long, I mean, it's obviously, persistence and everything, obviously turned it into a huge success. But is there anything you'd like to kind of think about? And
I'll give you a very funny answer to this, Naveen. Watching all the Hindi movies, right, growing up, the business guy was always a bad guy, right? I mean, he would be the guy at the end of the movie that would be going to jail. So there was this perception that business can only be done on wrong foundation, right? So there was this bad training in me, right? This is the society that you come from. And I came to this country in 96. Today's entrepreneurship environment is so different than in 96, 98, right? Entrepreneurship was not still that common. So I think for me, it was a process of discovery. That, hey, America is, today India also is awesome, right? But America was this great place where you didn't necessarily have to do something wrong to build a business, number one. You didn't need to come from a wealthy family. You had to have a great idea. So I think for me, it was a process, a little bit of discovery. Can I do it? Oh, wow. Yeah. And luckily for me, in my batch, there are a lot of great entrepreneurs. So maybe I just looked at some of them and said, hey, they did it. Maybe I can do it. And then last thing I would say is I looked at a couple of very defining factors for me. Was my first job. I looked at that. I loved my job. And I saw where my career would go 10 years down the road, and it didn't inspire me. Slightly bigger car, slightly bigger home, but nothing. I didn't feel that I was like really doing something which is really impactful. Second company was Trilogy in Austin, and the company that Joe Lehman built. In the turn of the century, it was one of the most interesting places in America to work, and people buzzing with ideas. So I think slowly through process of self-discovery, I said, yeah, I can do it. And at that point, I was ready to be out of my comfort zone. Throughout my IIT days, I was out of my comfort zone because I realized I'm not an engineer and in an premier engineering school. So, so being out of comfort zone was very, very comfortable for me.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. So let me start with the first question. Is from Rajiv in the audience. Which industry your next ventures will be in, and would you like to work with your old colleagues?
if the company that I acquired allows me to, but of course I have non-competes. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the team that you build, the relationships that you build, I would be surprised if in various combinations, a bunch of us don't get together in different avatars and different ventures to work together, right? And I'm a firm believer right now. There are a lot of, today there's so many great areas to work in, right? I mean, the world is full of transformation. Personally, I would love to invest in healthcare, my time in healthcare. There are a couple of other areas which are very attractive, but one foundational area which I've picked for myself is Web3. So all Web3 areas, but foundational technologies, not tinkering with cryptos, but I mean that you might do as a pastime, but really look at how certain technologies can become the foundation for the next era of the web, and investing in those technologies or building some of my own. So Web3 is a larger umbrella. Under the Web3 umbrella, there could be a couple of different verticals.
Thank you. So the next one is from Prakash Narayan. Can you talk about your customer acquisition strategies? I think I think this is amazing. How you did, with like bootstrapped ways. So I'm sure a lot of audience and entrepreneurs in the audience would love to hear that.
Customer acquisition journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
strategies and journey.
Yeah, I would love to say we had a great strategy, but I would say that the first few deals, if you're an entrepreneur, the first few deals, you got to bring it home, right? No sales team. I'm a firm believer of that for a couple of reasons. Now, if you get a great salesperson who's literally like your founding team and who gets it, awesome, good for you, right? Yeah. But I feel the first few customers teach you a lot. They sharpen your product market fit. They tell you which direction you should actually take. So being very intricately involved in the sales process the first few times is very, very crucial. So the first few deals, you could see my imprint on it. Me and my partner's imprint, right? We were very much there in the forefront. The other strategy we followed, apart from hiring a great team, putting a team together, I got it wrong multiple times. I got my sales team, hiring a top-end enterprise sales team is not a child's play. So I got it wrong 2 or 3 times. But a couple of things we did well, alliances. We really committed to being a software company. So we were willing to give all the implementation and everything to alliances, the Accentures, the TCSs, the Infosys of the world. So we were really okay. So we focused on alliances and really meant it, partner first. And then they would bring deals. Some of the biggest deals happened because a partner bought the deal to us. And second thing is we leverage, influence the influencers. So the biggest influencers in the enterprise space are the Gartners, the Forresters, and all the key people. So we did a good job influencing them. We became Gartner leaders last couple of years and continuing to progress along that dimension. We were visionaries for quite some time. So those are 2 specific strategies. Of course, finally you have to put together a great sales team, but these were 2 things that we really excelled in.
Thank you, Ben. So the next question is from Heath Shade. Would you have done anything differently if you were to go on an entrepreneurial journey again? And that's one. And on making basically on making business decisions and on work-life balances, etc.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. Of course, today, if I were to build, and I will be building some new businesses, I would learn from some of the mistakes and do things. You're wiser, you would do things faster. There were a lot of areas where I felt we made mistakes. We made mistakes in overhiring excitement, and you overhire. We made mistakes in killing consulting before a good revenue stream was there. So I can write a book just on my mistakes. In fact, maybe I should write a book called All the Mistakes, and that itself could be, I think, a very good book. I made every mistake under the sun that could be made. And today, looking back, I realized, yeah, so shouldn't have done that. It sounds very commonsensical, but at that point, your optimism sometimes takes over. So a lot of my mistakes were mistakes of optimism. Yeah. I would say too optimistic. But most of us entrepreneurs are, we are bit by that disease. Okay, so I'm not talking. Right. I think you talk to any entrepreneur, they probably have made mistakes, not because they were too conservative, because they were too optimistic. So I made tons of mistakes being too optimistic and spending money where I shouldn't have spent. Second thing I would say is, like putting a team together. I always believed in it, but I don't think I really understood how to do it till the later parts of Riversand. And if you look at our exec team at the very end, it is pretty stellar. But it took me some iterations to get that to really understand how to do that. So take help if you're an entrepreneur and you already are very good at it, or put people in your board who can help you with that. Work-life balance. That's a tough one. I think you will have to find balance, your own balance, and no 2 entrepreneurs will give you the exact same answer. There are times when I don't remember celebrating any of my birthdays. I was never interested in celebrating my kid's birthday on their actual birthday. It would always be, my kids would say, "But Dad, my birthday already passed." On the birthday, they got a happy birthday. And then me and my wife would find the most convenient weekend around it and would celebrate it then. And they would say, "This is not the week. This is not a day." I said, "How does it matter? This is the day we're going to celebrate." So if you really build this thing of flexibility, it's a myth that entrepreneurs won't have time. You just have to be flexible, right? You can't be very rigid. So it's not that entrepreneurship means you won't have work-life balance, but I would strongly urge that if you're an entrepreneur, have a flexible approach to certain things. For example, if you're the kind of person who says, "For my daughter's birthday, I got to be at home because that's very passionate for me," then entrepreneurship is not for you, right? Because if the big customer is getting signed somewhere, you better be there. But if your family is the one which says, "Hey, no big deal, the weekend after that we'll celebrate the birthday and we'll all be happy about it," yeah, you have time. You can create your own time. As an entrepreneur, you'll also be able to create some of your own time, right? So I would say, don't focus on work-life balance, focus on flexibility of thinking. Don't compromise on the most important things on both sides, on the business and family, but be a bit flexible, right? I think then you'll get the right work-life balance. I don't believe in those people who say entrepreneurship means you should not have any work-life balance. And, I read this book called Winning. Some of you guys might have read it, and I'm not a big fan of that, forget about work-life balance. No, I think you can create work-life balance. but the only way to create it is by being a bit flexible.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Upen, you mentioned. And of course, seems like you had a very good supporting, wife and family and kids. So which I think helps a lot. So I think having a very good partner who understands, not like, and helps you also become, they're also flexible, obviously, then you're able to do it. So that's a very
And you
good point.
communicate a lot, right?
Yeah.
Naveen, you communicate a lot. I mean, it's not like we both came in with perfect synchronization in every area. There are areas where I had to change, the areas she had to change, but we were in communication and we created a flexible lifestyle for us, right? For example, I'll just give one thing, right? Amongst the time, there was a time when I was making like in 3 years, I made about some 30 trips to Europe.
Yeah.
But Saturday night used to be movie night, right? Date night and movie night. I would not compromise on Saturday night for anything, right? So Saturday night was a time when my family and me would chill, either me and my wife or the kids. And so create your pockets. You figure out what works for you through communication.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. So next question is from Vinod Menon. It says, hi, Upen, how many hours a week did Anil and you toil for the 10 years that you struggled to achieve the breakthrough? That's first. Then number two is, how did you keep your dream alive? And of course, congratulations to you and the Riversand team.
I think we spent so much time in, a couple of these restaurants. We would just go and sit there and we would just like sit there and keep chatting. No, I would say it took us quite some time. The market itself was not as ready. Yeah. The term PIM came into the jargon in 2005. So in 2003, when we would go to customer, they would look at us and say, whatever you're doing, my ERP does it. I don't need you guys, right? So as e-com grew, the need for our software grew.
Yeah.
And by 2005, by 2007, 8, MDM. So I think the early years was more educating the market.
Right.
How do we keep the dream alive? We could see the market change. See, what you're looking for is not where you are, right? What you're looking for is where the market is going. And we could see the market is going to a place where a software such as ours is absolutely needed.
Yeah.
Then there are only two questions then. Will you survive? So that's where you better have the right financial strategies. And we were willing to do whatever, sweep the floor, do consulting. There's no this great thing of entrepreneurship, where you give big news, big articles and all that. We were like sweeping the floor. So we knew we will survive because we were willing to survive. We were willing to do whatever it takes to survive. Yeah. Then the second question becomes, well, if the market is there, why would you capture it? Why would your competition not capture it? And that is where I was talking about the craftsman mindset. There were so many companies that seemed like supernova. I mean, like they seemed like the next big thing. We beat them all because I think they were very short-term thinkers. So we were just more persistent, I guess, the grit and persistence.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. So next question is from Avi. This question from Heat, I'll come back to you after we have had from other folks also. Avi he's asking, amazing journey, Upen, of course. And we love the bootstrapping story. If you were to do it again, will you do it different?
I'm probably going to be not doing things differently. I didn't count on the product market fit taking such a long time for me to bootstrap that long, right? So I hope that my next venture, I pick something where within a year, the product market fit is established and within a couple of years, we raise the significant capital, right? It is not, if that is what you should aim for. Yeah, I'm not saying you should aim for a long period of, no, but I took whatever happened, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to look for that long. First of all, the markets are very short today. Paradigms change much quicker. Today, I feel what I did at Riversand has to be done faster. But truly, even at the Riversand story, we proved it. Last 5 years is when all the action happened, right? So within the Riversand journey, there were 3 journeys, and the third journey, 3 startups, and the third startup is what took us big. So yes, in fact, 2015, I had the idea of the new platform. 2016, we rebuilt everything. 2017, we raised for $5 million. So you already see that within that, I was ready to move much faster. Mm-hmm. So focus on your product market fit, get there faster. Then your journey doesn't have to be long.
Okay, this next question is from Raj. I think I missed it. What were the challenges in developing your product?
We moved very early on. We had a team in the US, we had a team in Bangalore, India. We had phenomenal people. I think the biggest challenge I would say is we were trying to do something pretty big. Our platform is probably one of the most significant platforms that has been built in our industry, in our neck of the woods. So clearly, the biggest thing we underestimated is we moved from licensed software to SaaS software. And we didn't really understand the kind of operational nightmares, because we are now talking not about selling a widget. We're talking about large enterprises putting all their data, the key data about their customers, their products and all that into our system. And you're talking about millions of records, large scale systems, and being multi-tenant SaaS. Okay, so having the kind of engineering talent that understood how to help us achieve that, the operational nightmares that we faced, where multi-tenancy was one large tenant killing the other tenant, and not true multi-tenancy, but eventually getting there, totally underestimating the hardware, our gross profit margins not being where it needed to be. So those are some of the things, but I think the heart of it was hiring engineering talent and keeping them in today's environment in US and India is not easy. And that was I guess this is the same thing everybody would tell you. Today, every person seems to have 5 jobs. I just give you one anecdote. For the longest period of time, till 2021, our attrition in India was 8%, 10%, way below the Indian average attrition. US attrition was hardly anything in engineering. So I think we did some good things to keep the people. That's where you have to focus. If you get the right team, guys, hold on to them for dear life, because that's going to be very key. The other way to think about it is today it's a much more remote environment. You can hire people from anywhere. It doesn't have to be one location. So I think there are some negatives and there are huge positives also.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, very good. Good points. Okay. So next question is from Dheeraj. This is a great journey and then financial freedom. What was the main motivation to sell after 20 years? Was it burnt out? What would you do different for your next venture?
I'm ready for my next ventures, which are like multiple ventures. So definitely it was not a burnout, but I felt there are two things that happened, right? When I was about to raise a pretty large Series B round, we were going for maybe over $100 million round, right? I mean, probably $150, $200 million round. It's a pretty large round we were looking to raise. I understood it's another 5-year commitment, right? So think through some of our key people who had been there with us for 10 years, 15 years, and asking another 5 years. I just felt everybody was reaching a point. We were all single. We all got married. We all had kids. Of course, there were new people who joined. But I just felt that everybody was now, hey, if I can secure myself, I'll fight another battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So people were in that mode. And I just felt, that was the right time to let go and build something new, because a lot of people needed that security, especially the old timers who had been there with us for a long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very good points. Next is from Vinod Nair. How did you decide between seed funding and bootstrapping during your journey?
I think seed funding is the right approach when you feel your product market fit, you know it. You might not have 100% established it, but you have a fairly good sense of it. And you're looking for some seed capital, maybe even some crowdsourcing. Today, you can raise $1 million, couple million quite easily in crowdsourcing. In our case, we knew that we were too early for the market. Even though we had solved the problem at Compaq, this is pre-merger with HP, the industry itself, in the first 1-2 years, we realized most of the customers were not ready to accept it. So we had to do the bootstrapping. We had to do consulting and so on, because the seed capital would have run over, right? In fact, even in 2005, when I went to raise capital, we were not getting great valuation. That's another reason why we bootstrapped, because the market just wasn't ready. The market started getting ready in 2007-8, I would say. And then the financial crisis happened. So the MDM industry, if you look at it, payment MDM, the big growth has happened post 2009. So yeah, so there was a 7-8 years when we were fighting the tide, right? So why did we just not sell out and do something else? Maybe I had my green card tied. I was still not a citizen. There are a lot of other factors that come in as to why we didn't do that. And we saw the end. We saw the market beginning to pick up. So yeah, so I think you go the seed route. If your path is much more clearer, you go the bootstrap. other routes, then you need some more time to tinker and experiment.
That's a very excellent point, because if you get the money right from the beginning, even from VCs, if you're not clear about where you're going, it'll be another, I call it stress in your
Correct.
circle of things
Correct.
you have to take care of.
Naveen, today for me, this is very clear, right? If you are in the tinkering phase, get a different kind of capital, either consult or get the kind of capital from people who understand your tinkering, and it will take some time, right? But institutional VCs don't understand the tinkering phase.
Yeah, I
You
totally
should
agree with you.
crossing the chasm. Already you're ready to cross the chasm, right? And they're really at that point. We were in the tinkering phase. That's why it took us too longer.
Yeah, absolutely agree, and very good advice. So next one is from an anonymous attendee. Do you regret not spending enough time on other aspects of life? I'm assuming you spend a lot of time on work. Smiley.
Yeah, but we said flexibility. I remember going to a customer in Israel and taking my wife along with me. So after the business part was over, then we enjoyed. I remember going to Germany for a customer visit, my wife joining me. She didn't join me for all trips, okay, but like we would pick and choose, right? After every fifth or sixth trip, we would pick and choose, and then we were in Rome, we were enjoying. So we always enjoyed. I never felt in those years that we didn't enjoy, because we were enjoying the journey. Actually, we were actually enjoying the journey. We were creating our own. Remember the flexibility point I was making? So I do want to stress that we enjoyed the journey. Yes, there were tough times, but we were having fun. We were watching movies on a Saturday night. We were doing things, we were actually enjoying, but we were working exceedingly hard. Don't get me wrong. We were working like over 100 hours at some point, right? So, but I think that flexible approach was okay. Maybe we didn't enjoy as much as our friends who are going on big trips, 4 trips a year or 2 trips a year, and we would see pictures from Bali or this or that. We didn't do any of that.
Right.
But I think the fruits of this entrepreneurship journey has also been great. We can live in Bali all the rest of our life if you want to now. So yeah. I think I don't regret it.
That's right. So so the next question. By the way, before that, it's 6:59. Are you okay with for next another 5 to 10 minutes? There are a few number of questions, looks like.
Yeah. No.
And yeah. So next is from Mario. Why are you so interested in Web3, especially in the context of build to last versus build to flip? And how do you navigate the fact that many of the projects today seem closer to the later rather than the former?
Yeah, I think my belief is like, because I saw this with .com, right? There were a lot of companies that came in, and there were a lot of early movers. There were a lot of speculators. There were a lot of companies. We all talk about momylon.com.
Yeah.
And the market crashed, right? Market crashed. But out of that crash, the companies that were foundationally strong, Amazons of the world, Googles of the world, they grew tremendously. So I have the same belief. I have a belief that there is going to be regulation in this industry. That's great. That's good for everybody. What you're seeing, the crash today, is a crash of a lot of speculators leaving, but the foundational technical blocks seem to be very solid. I do believe the world don't need the kind of gatekeepers and data hoarders that we have today. And a new, more ethical internet can be created, more ethical web can be created. So, but you got to be patient. So that goes with my long-term thinking. So I'm not looking to invest in something tomorrow and escape day after tomorrow. I'm not interested in that. Thankfully, the Riversand exit also gave us the kind of capital not to do things which are exceedingly short-term, myopic. So it actually works very well. I don't know who asked this question, but actually it works very well. I believe the next 10 years, if you have the patience for the next 5-10 years, right? The next sets of Amazons and the next Facebooks and the next built on the Web3 paradigm, all of those are coming. So I think this will be exciting.
Yeah. So there was the question was from Mario Vasilescu. And so it was, yeah. So
yeah, I know him.
yeah, that's what I thought. So second question from Mario again, which is a good question. I wanted to ask you also. Riversand was a category creator. So what is your top advice on creating a category successfully, especially achieving early sales when you're doing something new and different?
You have to tell the story, right? I think category creators have to, apart from winning business, have to tell the story, right? They have to be story creators too. They have to be storytellers too. You cannot lead a revolution or any big change of that kind if you're not telling the story. Like in our case, we use the Gartners and Foresters to tell the story.
Right.
I don't think we did a great job telling the story. Frankly, we did a great job in the analyst side. I think we could have done better, but we did a decent job, I would say. But if you're wanting to be a category creator, and I know Mario is well underway creating a category creation company. He's a pretty amazing founder, creating something I think is path breaking. I'm making a small pitch for Mario here. But yeah, you got to tell the story. You got to not just win customers, but you got to win customers' minds.
Yeah. So Mario, if you're a SaaS company, you need SOC 2 compliance automation, you can call me. We'll get it done for you very fast. Since Upen is making the pitch for you, I'll also make my pitch now. Anyway, this is moving on to the next one. So there is a question from Bhargav. He says, let's see. So basically, the question is, do you feel that most business solutions in today's world will rely on cloud native software, or do you feel that there is another paradigm shift in the cards? That's a good question, I think I would say.
I think the Web 2 world is all cloud native software. Even in the Web 3, cloud has a very big part. Blockchain itself is going to be a big part. I think new paradigms are coming, but it's not as a cloud itself is not going to be a very important foundation. But just cloud by itself and is not going to be enough. There are going to be a lot of distributed computing. There's going to be distributed ledger technologies, a la blockchain. There's metaverse, concepts in metaverse. I think for people like us who are like little older, it just fries my brain when somebody tries to buy real estate in metaverse and is looking for a mortgage for their real estate in metaverse. It's really starts stretching your mind as to what they're doing with it. So yeah, it's a different time. So I don't think there are so many different technologies. I mean, I'm not even talking about AI, machine learning. There is not one single technical piece you can say is the foundation. There are 4 or 5 different components that are going to be the founding blocks of the next gen technologies.
So there's a very good question which Heat Shade has asked. He says, did not being in the center of tech industry, Silicon Valley, did not being here made hiring difficult? If so, how did you navigate that? I would think the other way around.
It's a great question in the sense of, I was hoping somebody asked me that question, right? Talent is better in Bay Area, right? There's no question, right? The best talent, I think, even today, pound for pound, is in the Bay Area. But you can get very good talent in Texas, and there's a higher chance of keeping them.
Yeah.
While in Bay Area, you might have great talent, but chances of somebody wanting to, be with your company for longer is also lower. So I think it's a trade-off. You do that trade-off. And I do believe that Bay Area, Boston, that East Coast, they will always be the significant drivers. I think there's nothing that's going to change that. There's too much of the ecosystem that's built to make that happen. But other places, Texas not being the only one, I think other places are also coming up strong. And in today's kind of remote environment, I hope it'll matter less and less. Your teams can be very distributed, in fact, even outside the US. So we leveraged what was given to us. I mean, we took what was given to us, which is maybe from a talent perspective, not as great talent. You can get the talent equal to the talent in Bay Area. You won't just get enough of them in Texas. So you just have to be patient and get the right talent. And then your potential to keep them is just much higher. So we definitely benefited from that.
Yeah. So one question from an anonymous attendee is, tell us your experience about the biggest deal and the feeling you had along with the team members. How did you celebrate and what did it take to win the deal?
I'll tell you a funny deal. All my cars have been burnt out. My first car died a death because I drove too many miles. This car of mine, the car with which I built Riversand, it was a Lexus RX. It had 240,000 miles. I was going to close the IKEA deal, and it was not necessarily our biggest deal. Our biggest deal was, I guess, the deal with Walmart, but this is one of the large deals. And my car burnt out just before the airport, Houston airport. I left it on the road and made the trip to IKEA. My car was taken away by the police because in the airport zone. I called them and they said, hey, we can't pick up your car in the next 2 hours because you're safe. I said, then I'm going to make my trip. They said, then we're going to impound your car. My car got impounded, but we closed the deal. And I never recovered that car. I just had to pay some fines, but I never recovered that car. And yeah, so usually we would celebrate. We would take our team out, and we would have some celebration. But yeah, we've had many such instances where deals like I remember when we closed the Nordstrom deal, it really established our presence in retail. And there's a huge deal to win. And VF Corp, whose brands we all know, right? I mean, there are tons of brands that VF has that all of us use like on a day-by-day basis. So each of those deals were very instrumental, and we had a blast. We celebrated it with the team. I don't know specifically, I want to go into the details of what the celebrations were, but yeah, we had a blast. But there was also a price to play. I always say that I lost my Lexus for that IKEA deal. Not that a Lexus was very valuable. It was probably about $2-3 by that.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So let me ask you one question. Like, seems like we're already running out of time and already over time. So in one of your articles, in 2017, I wanted to make sure I covered most of all the questions from the audience. So and then, so in my doing, I couldn't find any latest articles. Maybe you're just too busy with all the great deal makings. But one I found in 2017 was I think it was Product Culture, maybe a German magazine, I'm guessing. You spoke about what do you see the future of master data management and product information management? So the question is, if you go back in 2017, what did you say you saw? And now you reflect back, and how do you think it's moving and opportunities going forward?
No, I think in 2015-16, I literally had to sit down and say, where is the puck going in the industry? Right. And when we made those decisions, our competition looked at us and literally laughed at us, right? Because there was years from hell. I would call 2016, 17, 18 years from hell.
Right.
Because we had stopped developing our old platform. So customers were not buying it, saying, hey, that's your old platform. We know you're not investing in it anymore. The new platform was not yet scaling, and it had its own bugs. So they were saying, hey, your new platform am I going to be the guinea pig for your new platform?
Yeah.
So we had this really time from hell. But we knew we were on the right path. And in that 2017 article, in fact, the gentleman who writes that magazine is in Houston. He just came from Germany to Houston right now as we speak. Probably he's also listening in. And I think everything has panned out the way we said. And slowly but steadily, our competition first ridiculing us to saying, good Lord, they're onto something, to then saying, oh, we got to develop the same. But we got a solid 4-5 years advantage on them. And so if I look back, that was absolutely the right move. And we changed the tires of the car as the car was moving, and it was one of the most interesting experiences. But that's what put us in the limelight.
By the way, I do want to take notice of William Muldoon. He says, thank you. Awesome. I'm assuming he knows you.
Yeah, he was our head of sales.
Oh, okay, awesome.
He's one of the key leaders, our head of sales, and continues to be at Syndigo, the guy who is today the head of the MDM practice at Syndigo. So very, very key collaborator with me, and I'm thankful for people like him.
Awesome. So last question before we part of Upen is what would be your advice for entrepreneurs, let's say, who's focusing on your space like MDM or PIM at this point, and they're just ready to start and trying to figure out how to come up with a product in that space? Any opportunities or advice? Since you're already focused in Web 3.0.
No, I'll say a fun point, and then I'll answer your question. First, if you're not yet married, make sure you get the right wife like me. Okay. so that is no, just jokes apart. I think in every space, MDM, PIM, I can't say too much, okay, because I have all kinds of non-competes and things like that. I can't be giving actual advice on what is a killer for my own company, right? So, right. But there are obviously huge new trends happening. In our space, we are part of a larger customer experience space, if you will. What we do, in a sense, if you're talking about customer experience, data is an important part, and we are the data part of that customer experience. When you go to a website today, Nordstrom.com or a IKEA.com, all the information that's coming is coming from a system such as ours, right? So what a customer sees online is actually being fed by a system such as ours. So there's a ton of stuff happening in areas of AI, ML, areas of how do you predict. I think I'll just leave with one thought, right? I think the industry, this we saw at IKEA, right? This is IKEA's thought, so not my thought, it is IKEA's thought. 100 years back, people used to make products for one person. You lived in a village, you needed a table, the carpenter in the village would make a table for you. From there, you went to hyper industrialization, standardization. Basically, the same table will now be sold to 10,000 people. And now the industry is trying to say, can I still scale to 10,000 people, but can I help understand the customer better and give them what they want, right? So how can you hyper personalize, hyper customize in a highly scaled out environment, right? Which is a challenge, because the carpenters, he was delivering to a small village, but how can you not standardize, and how can you actually, understand the customer better? So that's where a lot of AI, ML, a lot of different technologies, graph, and so on, is all trying to solve that problem, trying to understand the customer journey map, and trying to map the customer's journey, to give better experiences, right? So look at so if you want to get into this space, read up like anything. There is definitely, I can't tell you what to do, but there's definitely huge scope for newer and newer players, innovation coming and killing the older guys.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm sure, a lot of people, they might come back to you for advice in a few years once you're out of your non-competes. So before we end, I would like to take a moment to thank all the support people, because TIE is run by volunteers, and same way I'm a volunteer, and I asked Upen to volunteer here to share his amazing stories so we can all get learn something and get inspired. And I always feel these are very inspiring stories, because they have so many nuances for every entrepreneur, how they succeeded. But some of the folks, Molly has, she's one of the TIE has only few staff members. She's the one big hole helping me and the team along. With that, there was a volunteer team of all like us here: Adhar Walia, Amrita Singh, Anand Akila, who's one of the board members in the beginning who introduced, and Darsananath Karni, and Rishi Sathavane, as well as Burshali Malpikar. She used to be our program manager earlier. So all these people, a big thanks to all these folks who help support in marketing and arranging this for this amazing event. So with that, I'd like to conclude and thank you, Upen, and let's give a big virtual thank you and applause to Upen.